Flava yeah. Good morning, Chattanooga. Today is Wednesday, March the 15th, and you all are tuning into another Flavor with Dolls show. I got a very special guest in the building. Oh, I guess it's special, but today I got Wes Holland in the building, and we're gonna get to the. I don't know if it's dreaded. Everybody's talking about credit these days and buying houses. Everybody wants to buy a house. Everybody got to have 40 acres. So we're gonna tap into it. Miss West is gonna bring his knowledge and expertise today. So today is the time to call in with your questions. He's here. So I brought him to the area. The phone number to call in is 713-7614. And so we just gonna dive right in. Good morning, Wes.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I see you got your the credit go hoodie. Is that your merch?
Mm-hmm.
Can you are the hoodies for sale?
Yeah, you can get 'em.
Okay. So why don't you just introduce yourself to the listeners, the people that are tuning in on Facebook about your services, your brand, like what is it that you do?
Okay, so I'll tell you a real funny story real quick too. So when I was starting my business, I was wanting to, help with credit, business consulting, things like that. So me and my friend, we were sitting on the couch. This was 5 years ago. So we're sitting there trying to figure out like everybody wants to have like a tag name or something that's catchy, right? So
Right.
we're sitting there, and at this time, you got to keep in mind we're sports fanatics, so we always do the debate of who is the goat, right?
Mhm.
So we're literally sitting on the couch, and he's on his phone, and I'm like, "Dude, you're not even listening to me, man! Like all the names I'm coming up with, all the business ideas, like is taken." And
Mhm.
he was like, "The credit goat's available." I was like, "Oh, that's stupid." I'm like, I'm on my phone. I'm like, but it is available.
Yeah.
And so that's how the credit goat come about, honestly, sitting on the couch. So we come up with the name, and 5 years later, here we are. Um, Basically, what I do is I help and assist clients with their credit, whether it be a total fix. Sometimes they just need advice on, what they can do better. Honestly, 90% of the issue is the education or lack of. So there's so much misinformation out there as well. Sometimes you have to peel back some of the habits and things that people have that they got off of TikTok. Back when Clubhouse was really really popular,
Oh yeah.
so there's a lot of misinformation and dialogue that goes around. So some people have made their situations worse by doing things that they didn't really understand or know what they were doing. So my thing is I like to educate. So education comes first, teaching about credit, how to properly build, establish, and maintain credit, right? But the second part is the actual disputing process of helping them get, any negative items, anything that's outdated off of their credit reports and things like that. But again, it goes back to the education. My niche become either people that want to purchase homes or first time home buyers.
Okay.
So over time, it was really like helping anybody that needed their credit fixed, right? Well, then I started seeing a need for how many people wanted to purchase homes. And this was pre-COVID. So um, it kind of started out as you could get onesie and twosies. And as I worked with affiliate lenders and mortgage brokers and real estate agents, the need become more because that's who they were sending to me, right?
Mhm.
Well, really 2020, it really become like my strong suit of what I do. And then it became my focal point of helping people go from renting to home ownership. But really what I do is help them get prepared for it, not just with their credit, but like so many people don't even understand the home buying process.
Right.
So I come up with services that include everything all in one. About 3 years ago to kind of start help push people to get the education they need for home ownership because there's so much more to it than just your credit scores. Like I know people that have exceptional credit and still can't get qualified for anything because of the way the profile looks or their debt to income ratio is extremely high, different things like that. So kind of peeling back and getting people to understand what is required, what's needed, and then help them really get to that point.
All right then. So are you from Chattanooga?
Well, I'm from Georgia.
What part
Um,
of Georgia?
Chickamauga,
Okay, so
the
just right
yeah,
there.
just right there, but, my family, they live in Key West, Florida, so
Okay.
they moved, about 12 years ago. So, went through a divorce, got custody of my kids. About 6 or 7 months after that, my parents moved to Key West, so it's
Okay.
been me being a single dad pretty much here, um, pretty much by myself for 12 years now, so,
Okay,
you know
kudos.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I know a lot of people. I see you helping a lot of people online, and I see you always marketing. So, like, what's your marketing strategy? Because it seems like you've been pretty successful. I feel like maybe 3 years ago, I probably didn't know who Wes Holland was, but now I feel like every time I get online, I'm seeing your stuff. Is this just you actively just being intentional?
Um, yes and no. So it's like anything else. Like I do believe um, when you do good business, you obviously you can't please everybody, you can't help everybody. But what I think works for me is I'm very honest, I'm very humble. I don't set any like false expectations. My approach is really just when I first started, it was really to help anybody and everybody. But I learned you kind of had to, even with that, some people are not your clients. You're not for some people, things like that. But through marketing, I think what works for me is just I'm really honest and open. And when I do events or I try to help other people, so it's not just about like my brand growing. Like I try to help other people's brand grow. Like a lot of the real estate agents I've worked with in the past, mortgage lenders, like they would be. Some of them are very experienced, been in the game for like 20 years, but I also have others that are, I remember what it was like when I started out, and in the
Yeah.
credit industry when I started, was 2018, so it wasn't really popular at that point.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to get into some doors because they kind of frowned upon credit repair because it's such a shady industry. Kind of like how real estate's really cutthroat. Like I didn't know that when I started. I was thinking it was roses, like, oh, they make a lot of money. It's going to be great. But it's a really cutthroat industry. And credit repair is kind of the same because it's all wrapped in one. So I think just being, but also helping other people build their brands and their business, like whether they're real estate agents, lenders, bankers, whoever. There people start at any point in time. And like 2020, COVID, all that changed. There was so many people going into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so I think that really helped me because it allowed me to get into some doors that I was not into at that time. And then just the digital age, just with putting out good content and accurate content. So I think that helps tremendously is I give away like so much information. Yeah. So I truly think that that's like, I'll have people like, man, I've been watching it for 3 years. I'm ready to get started. I'm like, man, I never knew you didn't like a post.
Right.
But it's like,
it's the silent watchers. Those be the ones that be watching.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the free game. So like, what are the like 5 things that you feel like are misconceptions about credit? Like for somebody that's just doesn't have, because I don't have a lot of credit knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So somebody like me, what are 5 things you think that we should know that like the mass majority, like you don't know this?
Yeah. So I think you have to start with what impacts most, which is your utilization and payment history. So why I say that is, and I tell my clients all the time, like it's the habits. Don't focus on the scores because everybody gets fixated on the scores. Like, oh man, I got a 550, my stuff's bad. And I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand if you change your habits, the habits bring the score. It's like anything else, like it's like school, right? So if you don't study for the test, you don't make good grades. It's because you didn't study and didn't do the work. For the people that do the work, they generally make better grades. Now, do they always make good grades? No, stuff happens. It's the same thing with credit, right? So the habits and your discipline are the first pillar of any type of good credit. If you ask anybody who's ever had good credit, who has good credit, their habits are the first and foremost thing that helps them have good credit.
Okay. So how do you feel about, because I've always been told that no credit is worse than bad credit. Is that true? Or do you feel like if you're starting from zero, it's easier?
Yeah. So that's not a yes or no type of answer. Sometimes having bad credit is worse than no credit, but sometimes having no credit is worse than bad credit because the problem is with no credit, you have no history. So lenders have no way of knowing how well to pay something. Keep in mind, there's a lot of people that pay cash for everything. And then as they start getting like their 30s or late 20s or, whatever, they're looking to purchase homes and things like that. Then they see the importance of credit, right? So that's where it can be impactful to where it's a negative if you don't have any credit, because then it's a little bit harder to establish credit because you don't have any credit, right? And it sounds crazy because you're like, well, I don't have bad credit, but people with bad credit have some type of history that's attached to their credit. So they can see they probably have some good accounts. So sometimes it's just about the profile. If you have like a slim profile and you don't have a lot of items on there, then it's worse for lenders to allow you to get funding, right? Especially like, and I tell business owners this all the time, like you should never be using your personal credit to fund your business. Like on that side, it's easier to build a profile on business from scratch than it is personal credit.
Okay. And so do you help with building business credit too?
I do.
Okay. So like, I don't know, should I have these 5 or 6 credit cards I got, or do I need to let some of them go?
Well, here's the thing.
I got a lot of credit cards.
Yeah, so you want to have them to where it's a benefit to you, right? So if it's a situation to where you have 5 cards but you're carrying high balances, then you really need to work on paying your utilization down. Start, depending on the way balances, work with the one that has the highest interest rate, or you can do the snowball effect. The ones that have the lower balances, pay those off first. But generally speaking, 30% utilization is like the industry standard. However, lenders for homeownership, they like to see you 10 or under,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So here's the thing, right? So it affects your credit score. So it's no matter what, if you're able to pay more than the minimum, pay that down every month, but you don't want to keep adding back to the card, right?
Okay.
Um, the thing is, they report once a month on your cycle or close date. So whatever balance you have on the card at that time is what they report to the credit bureau. So a lot of people will say, "Hey, I've paid my card, but I'm not going anywhere." But if you look at their habits, they'll pay off the card a little bit and then they spend back on it. If that happens simultaneously before the cycle date, then they're going to report the higher balance. Like if you spent more, it's going to be a higher balance. But if you spent less, it'll be less. So you kind of have to ignore your due dates on them, right? So the
Okay.
key is to work till you get them all paid down, and then make sure that whatever you spend on them on a monthly basis, whether it's 200, 400, $50, $10, pay that off in full every month to always report a zero balance.
Mm.
So what
So I
lenders
need to quit letting my granddaddy hold that one credit card that he keeps spending up. I'm like, I just paid the card off. What do you mean?
Yeah, and so that leads me to this point, right? So I have a daughter in college, right? I speak to a lot of people that have children in college, and like for me, I did add her as an authorized user when she was 16. So when she became 18, she already had her own credit profile, right? So for anybody that has 18-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds that are in college, if you're letting them use your credit card and they're spending on it, get them their own.
Okay.
So one, it won't affect your utilization because like they keep higher balances because they live off the cards, right? They live off the credit, which is understandable. But a key is add them as an authorized user to your card. Let them do that for a couple months, and then they'll be in a position where they can apply for their own student cards. Like for instance, my daughter has I don't know about $6,000 worth of credit cards right now,
Oh, okay.
but she also has like a 730 credit score.
Okay.
So the key is she listens to the advice for one,
Okay.
so she's not reckless with it. But at the same time, that's allowing her to be able to do adulthood the right way. So she works a job, even though she's in college. She pays off most of her credit cards, which I pay
Most of
90% of.
it.
But the thing is helping her build credit. And like if she gets high utilization, that no longer affects me anymore.
Okay.
So it's allowing her to build her own profile. So I employ everybody to do that with their kids. Um, get them a bank account when they turn 14. Most places will let you put them on a bank account. Get them an own bank account. Let them start experiencing a little bit of money. One of the biggest things I think was funny to me was when both my kids got to the age to where they had their own bank accounts. I started making them pay for a little bit of stuff out of their account, and they both were tripping about taxes. They were like, "But it says it's $1.99. Why do I have to pay more?"
Oh,
And like my
wow.
son, he was like, "This is stupid." I'm like, "Hey, welcome to life because you're
Right.
gonna be paying
Adulthood
taxes
at its
forever."
finest.
But yeah, so just little things like that goes a long way. I do believe um, we need to change the narrative in the education portion for like middle school, high school age kids because there's so much money at a young age that we didn't have the opportunity to make. But the biggest part about that is teaching them how to manage the money, but also the importance of credit at an early age. Because like for me, I wasn't taught. My parents never taught me about credit.
Right.
I
A lot of
learned
us
that
have
the
that.
hard way. I was broke for a lot of years in my 20s. Like most of my 20s, didn't really start getting into credit until I was almost 35, and that was because I was being told no for everything. So through my corporate jobs, I was able to learn the corporate side of things, but then like some of the like the leaders in the industry of sales and management, they all had good credit. So I started asking them like, "Hey man, what do y'all do?
Yeah,
Like
right.
would you mind telling me?" And most of the time they were like, no, like they wanted to share the information. And so when Comcast did our layoff 2 weeks before Christmas in 2017, like I was like, I'm going to use this opportunity to bet on myself. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back into corporate world. I got a strong profile, but I wanted to change people's lives the way that I had seen things change for me. And that's really how things started.
It's awesome. So, if for anybody that's want to buy a house, because I haven't bought a house. I never reached out to you before, and that's like
Mhm.
my next thing is to
Yeah.
buy a house. Like, is there such thing as being too old? Because I know that from what I'm thinking is like, well, if I'm gonna have a 30-year mortgage, like, do I wait? I mean, can I afford to wait until I'm in my 40s to buy a house? And then like I got two car notes, so I'm like, do I pay off both my cars before I buy a house? Like, the worst thing is to be like getting evicted out of a house or foreclosure. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
So
big fear.
So there's never too old because you can do a 15-year mortgage. It's a little more expensive than a 30-year.
Mhm.
But at the same time, a 30-year, you get a 30-year and get a better, like, the interest rate long term would be more, but you can always pay more towards the principal and pay it off early.
Okay.
So there's never anything to it. Like I've got clients that are first time home buyers in their 50s, and like I'll never knock anybody for wanting to better themselves in a situation. If you look at the credit, like just for what we do now, like it wasn't established until like the 1980s. So like for my parents and people that are born in like the 60s and 50s, around, they were never taught credit because it was like you go to your corner store, you got credit with them, you go to your local bank, your friends, neighbors, whatever. It was a different type of credit, right? So they
Mhm.
can't teach what they didn't know.
Right.
So for me, like I'm 41. So for my age, there was either like you learn from your parents or life taught you,
Right.
right? So just now it's getting to a point where so many people are starting to feel that I'm able to do these things, right? Like, oh, I can see like so and so did this, I can do that. You know what I mean? So like never think you're too old. The only thing you have to do is really position yourself properly for that. So having two card notes, you're gonna have very high utilization, which is gonna limit the amount of loan you can get for a home.
Because I don't want to get a $100,000 house. I want a big house, with an in-ground pool, a basketball rim for the boys,
Yeah,
maybe a cabana,
yeah,
infinity pool.
yeah, and
I
those
can't do
things,
that with. I need to pay off $100,000.
yeah, and the thing is you would because again, you want to these things you should do prior to going to get the loan. So about 5 or 6 months ahead of time. Like don't wait until like you're like, hey, I want to buy a home next month. Like
Right.
then you're gonna stress yourself out. It's gonna be extremely hard because even if you get approved for a loan, like even my personal situation, I had like $10,000 worth of student loan left. So when I bought my house last February, I had to pay off $10,000 worth of student loans along with the down payment for the house to qualify because I'm self-employed. So
Mm.
depending on how your money is and how much money you have coming in versus money going out, it's a little more difficult. It can still be done because I hear people say all the time, like, "Oh, buying a house is stressful." It really is. I know
Mhm.
people that have excellent credit going through like selling one house to be able to purchase another house, and like sometimes that's more stressful than just somebody that's never purchased a home at all because there's different factors. It is different for everybody, so there's no one fits all type of situation, right? So the best thing you can do is get yourself put in position financially to where you have the least amount of debt possible with as much savings as you can going into the home purchase.
So the student loans, they're gonna affect me being able to buy a house.
They can, yeah. Now
Sally
here,
Mae days. I
so
thought Joe Biden was gonna erase all those. Mine are
well,
still on
he
mine.
tried, but he didn't do it legally, so like it's caught up in the court system.
I wish I had got mine done illegally.
Me too.
I think I remember reaching out to you like, "Is this real? Like,
Yeah,
why mine still
yeah.
showing up?"
So the thing is, like with student loans, right? What a lot of people don't understand is like if you're in default and you go for a first time home buyer's loan, most of them are government backed. You cannot purchase a home and be in default in your student loans. So you either have to have them deferred, brought to current, or they're going to ask you to pay them off. So the underwriters have all the power when it comes to the home buying process. Your mortgage lenders can get you the pre-qualification, but like I tell everybody, have all your paperwork together because when they go actually through the process of the loan itself and the underwriters come back, they may ask for the same statements 4 times. And you're like, I've already given you this. You're just asking for it in a different way now. But
Mm.
they're going to fine tooth comb everything to ensure that you're qualified for what their standards are for paying back the loan, right? So student loans, they're either going to take like 1 or 0.5% of the overall total to calculate it into your DTI. But if you're in default, it can cause you not to get the loan. If your DTI is really high, you may have to pay off some things because depending on the loan type, depending on the company, they're all kind of different. Um, like I know somebody who bought a home just recently, put like $50,000 down on the home, and they still wanted him to have 6 months worth of all his bills in the bank after he did that.
Dang.
So the more expensive house you buy, the stricter they're going to be.
I guess I better not be trying to get one of the 1.5s that they got on them now. I
Yeah,
better just give me a little something and Highland Park.
yeah. But see, the thing is, like, what I would tell everybody is, some people it is better to purchase a home. Some people, their situation is better to rent. It's a personal thing. It's a personal
So you
preference.
don't frown upon people that are renting?
No, and I don't think you
Everybody,
should
it's like
because, like,
society now is like buy a house, you feel like you just like that's just blowing money.
Yeah, but and sometimes it is. Now you have to keep in mind that for certain situations, for the size of the house that you could buy, you could save money versus what you're renting. But some people, it's perfectly okay for them to rent because if it's a situation to where, like, I know I'm not going to be in this city long term, or I don't want to have to deal with maintenance, or I don't want to have to deal with certain things that come with it, then it is better to rent. So it's a personal thing. And I don't knock people for renting because I've rented, I've rented some pretty bad places when I had to in my early 20s, but it's part of life. Now, for me, it was important to try to purchase because you do pretty much gain instant equity, even though the housing market goes up and down long term. Like historically speaking, we're still under right now, under lower than the average for like the past 100 years of interest rates. So it's
Okay.
still a good time to buy. It may cost a little more, but it's still a good time to buy. But you have to be financially stable enough to purchase as well. So I know everybody is the thing now with, and it's a fad. It'll go away. They'll start something new. As far as what the internet says.
Yeah, buying
Um,
houses. Everybody's trying to buy a house right now.
yeah, but the
It's
thing is, like,
crazy.
if you don't have the income levels and you don't have the money saved, it's expensive to buy a house now
Yeah.
because nobody's like homeowners aren't paying closing costs, so we're left to pay. So you got to keep in mind you got to have your 3.5% down plus your closing costs plus if you have higher utilization, different things like that. They may tell you to pay that down. They may tell you have to pay your student loans off, you have to pay your credit cards down, and you have to pay a vehicle off just to be able to be approved for the loan. So
Ooh,
if
bring
you're
them
not
bands.
yeah, so if you're not prepared early on, that's where people are like, "Whoa, I didn't know I'd have to do all this to purchase a home."
Yeah.
But that's where the importance of having a good real estate agent, but more importantly, the mortgage lender, because you shouldn't be looking for a house until you know how much house you can buy.
Right.
So the first step is really getting the pre-approval or speaking to a lender to find out where you're at. And if you have really good one of those, they help you on the process so you don't get shell shocked with the expense and cost of it all.
Y'all, this is a lot of information. I guess I better get me a side job. But you all are listening to the Flavor with Doll show. I got Wes Holland in the building, and we're talking about credit. I mean, this is some really important stuff. So y'all stay tuned. I'm gonna let the DJ play us some music, but the phone lines are open 423-713-7614. If you want to call in and say good morning, or if you want to call in and ask some questions, now is the time. All right, y'all. We are back like we never left. I don't know who coined that, but I like it. I'm back and better. So I'm sitting right here talking to Wes Holland, and he is dropping some free game on us today. So he slid through the show, and I'm so grateful. And just talking about the importance of credit, how to fix your credit. If you're watching on Facebook, I did tag in the link um his website, which was well, you go ahead and plug your stuff. How do people reach out to you? And then I want to talk about those packages because I see that you got some different like package
Yeah,
options.
yeah. So, hollandconsulting.org is the website. The Credit Goat on Facebook. That's the two ways that you can reach me. As far as the packages go, I have several different ones. So we have some for business, we have some for personal credit. Really, with the business, it's more about helping small business owners who are maybe a little bit established or somebody who is wanting to become an established business, helping them properly structure the business and be compliant so that way you can start to build business credit properly. And then on the personal credit side, it's really just about helping people repair and fix their credit, build credit for people that don't have credit, because a lot of times you can have bad credit with no credit. So like you could have everything you have could be like old accounts that are collections. So they
Mm.
may need to learn how to properly establish credit, the right way. My goal is with the personal credit is to get them to a point where they don't need my services. So that way going forward, they know how to manage and keep building and can teach their kids and family members and, things like that.
And you had mentioned something that I didn't know. So you're saying that so what is the earliest that you can add your child to like as an authorized user, like start building their credit?
Yeah, so it depends on the credit card provider. So
Okay.
most places you can get them their own bank account like at 14. So it would be like I was a primary, but my daughter and my son, they have their own account. So they have their own debit cards and everything like that. Now I can see everything that they do, so they can kind of monitor it. Once they turn 16, you can take the account and turn it over just to them.
Okay.
So as far as being added as an authorized user, each credit card company or provider has different age limits. Some of them start at 13, 14, 16, 17. What I would encourage you to do is just ask, just say, hey, I want to add my child on as an authorized user. You can do it right over the phone. Some of them, like Capital One, Chase, the ones that have apps, you can do it right from an app and as an authorized user. All you have to do is add their name and their social security number. And what that does is they'll be able to piggyback all of the credit history. So only do this if you have
Or if you're doing right by your credit card. Don't do it if you
right.
if you if you done max the card out 5 times and you don't actually exceed it because you're writing bad checks to the credit card. If you're writing bad checks to the credit card people and you got a lot of reversals, don't add the children to your credit card.
Yeah, because
Don't
you
do
want
that.
them to piggyback the positive because they're going to piggyback the credit history from like even if the card's like 10 years old and that would have put them at 6 years old when you got the card, they're going to have 10 years worth of that history on your credit.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I'm gonna have to put Josiah on mine.
yeah, so as soon as they turn 18, as long as it's positive credit, low utilization, excellent payment history. That's the keys that you want to add them to. Even if you have just a $300 card, you don't want to use it for yourself, and you want to add them to it, just use it for the simple fact of building them credit. Do that. It doesn't matter the amount. It's more of the low utilization and the excellent payment history. And when they turn 18, within like a month of turning 18, they'll already generate a high credit score, like high 600s, low 700s. So as soon as they turn 18, they'll have a credit profile. So if they want to do anything with that, get their own cards, purchase a vehicle if they're working, things like that, they already have a head start with that. So it takes away us having to be co-signers for them in their early, like 18, 19, 20, things like that. But it also gives them, like for student loans, they can get student loans in their name, like the government kind. They can actually go get like the real bank kind and things like that. So there's different ways of doing it. But it's always important because that's how you get them to be where they can purchase a house in the early 20s without any problem because they already have the credit, they have credit history tied to it, and it's really beneficial to change the just the way that kids look at money and the way that I didn't have that option. Like,
These kids messed up now. Wes, my son asked me if he requests money on Cash App every day.
yeah,
So he think and I actually asked him over the weekend, him and his brother. I'm like, y'all think I'm rich? And they were like, yeah. And I asked my 7-year-old, like, why do you think that? He's like, because you always buy stuff. I'm buying it because I have to. And as
Right.
soon as y'all get a job, I won't have to buy as much.
Oh yeah, just like when my daughter's the same way. She's pretty bougie, but it's my fault. She's a little
We
spoiled.
create these little monsters.
But I remember when we got her bank account, she was like, "All right, I get a credit card," and then I had to tell her like, "Well, you can only spend the money that you have in the account."
Right.
She looked, she had it. She said, "Huh,"
Well, I
and she was
like
like, "That's stupid." I was like, "Well, it's your own money that you're going to spend in there." But
that. Man.
once she realized it, it was a good teachable moment, because like she had no idea. She thought she was just fitting to get the money to the bank and
Right.
go
It's
crazy.
your time.
So now, if you fast forward, like even though she's in college and when she was in high school, like she'd be like, "Hey, I want to buy this. Will you buy it for me?" I'm like, "You got money in the bank?" She's like, "Oh no, I don't want to spend my money.
Oh
I want to
no,
spend
that's
your
how
money."
they are. Just like I'm like, you come out the house and you don't have your own money, and he's like, I gotta save my money.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the heck? What about mine? Do I get to save
same
mine?
thing. Yeah, and it's just kids.
Crazy.
It's that they look at us as, and I guess it's a good thing because they do.
It's not good, Wes.
Well,
It's toxic.
I look at, well, yeah, it is, but I look at it as the fact that at least they know they can rely on us.
Yeah.
That's the good thing
I mean, they
because
have that security, so I guess
yeah,
it's definitely bittersweet. But
absolutely.
y'all keep me lifted up in prayer because I can't afford my kids.
Oh man, nobody can.
I think I gotta have some home. And then my stepdad called this morning on the way to take the boys to school, and he was like, Josiah hadn't called. He only calls when he wants something.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, well, he doesn't need to call you when he wants them. I said, because he asking for stuff he don't need. And then my stepdad's like, what do you need? I'm like, a refrigerator full of groceries. That's what he needs. Next time you call your granddaddy, Josiah, if you listen, next time you talk to your Nina and your Papa Bo, you ask them for a deep freezer full of meat. Okay? That's what you do. Stop asking for phone cases and fake chains and all that stuff. Ask for a deep freezer full of food, please, and thank you. Now, that's my request for today.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like I say, my kids are the same way. They're
How old are your kids?
so my daughter's 18, my son's 16.
So you have 2.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're doing. Oh, they almost like grown and gone.
Oh yeah,
The countdown is real for this 16-year-old.
oh yeah. So he's different than Talia. He's musically inclined, where
Okay.
I'm not at all. So he wants to go to music school.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
depending on what he wants to do, I don't know if he'll go to a traditional college or things like that. But I encourage it. Like I was always into sports. Talia was more like me. She played volleyball, was into sports. AJ kind of could care less. He's all about his piano and guitar, and
What school's he at?
he's at Lakeview.
Okay.
Lakeview High.
That's in Georgia too?
It is.
Okay. Cool. I like musicians. Musicians are so cool. You gotta let them, figure out their thing.
Yeah, sometimes he's too laid back.
Really?
Yeah, it's night and day from her.
Because he's just relaxed because he know you got it.
Yeah,
He's tough.
man.
You can end up with a 40-year-old version.
No, no. So he is the way that his personality is like he comes off combative in a way, and I'm like, I just want to choke you. But at the
It's
same
always
time,
that youngest one.
yeah, because he's why? No, just do it. But why? And like if you don't specifically tell him to do it, he'll be like, well, you didn't say to do it. I'm like, yeah, I did, but you didn't specifically say. I'm like, bro.
This 7-year-old that I live with, I'm always getting on to me. I'm like, this what you're doing is called arguing. When you're like telling me what you don't want,
Right.
that's where we got a failure to communicate because I said do it and I said do it now, and then he spoiled right, and then I go and call him, and then his brother spoils him,
Oh yeah.
and then Josiah gets jealous because he's spoiled too. I'm outnumbered. Do anybody want to buy some kids? How much do you think my credit score will go up if I get rid of the kids?
It's possible. Your debt to income would go down.
The debt to income would definitely go down. Oh my gosh. I'm just so happy that we came in, that we actually, I was just telling Wes before we started talking, I'm like, dang, I've been knowing you for years on Facebook, but now we actually get to meet in person for the first time, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
But social media is really kind of getting us out of touch of just meeting in person. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to buy me a house, y'all. So when I get ready to bust that move, I'm gonna tap in with Holland Consultants. I hope and encourage and urge everyone else to do the same. I did tag him on social media. So if you aren't following me on Facebook, you need to do so. It's Doll Sandage on Facebook. I got information about life insurance, information about Medicare, information about credit. I'm always sharing good information. I feel like I share a lot of good information on my Facebook page. And then of course you're gonna see the dog and the chicken and the 2 kids. But I'd like to try to share information, and that's another reason why I have this show, is so we can get the information that is so pertinent, you know, out into the community, so we can. You can't win if you don't know the rules.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like I tell a lot of my clients, like credit is not a one-time thing. Like you're gonna have a credit score as long as you're alive. And I can't stress the importance of credit goes hand in hand just with financial literacy, but life insurance, proper insurance for your business. Even if you don't have to have certain insurances for the industry, like you should still cover your business.
Right.
One thing I will say real quick too is everybody's on the LLC, LLC, LLC.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the LLC is the best suited for the type of business that you want to do, not to mention the growth of where your business wants to be.
Right.
So properly structuring your business protects your personal assets and your business assets. So when you're looking at credit and financial literacy, just in general, like you should look at life insurance. You should have a living will if you have children. Like all these things are very important. You should have a proper bank account, not a chime card, not relying on stuff that can get hacked, like chime card and cash app, things like that. So many people use that as their banks, and it's like you still need to be establishing real relationships with the bank that you can be local. And like I tell clients on a daily basis about this, especially if you want to purchase a home. Like nowadays, things are different. You don't cut a check for your like your down payment and your closing costs. Like you have to do a bank transfer. You have to go to the bank and tell them I want to transfer this money, and then they do it. You can't do that through Chime or Cash App. Right. You can't get them, like you do have bank statements, but you can't get them the proper bank statements that are needed. Just like life insurance, you should protect any assets that you have. The point for me, and like I have a small group of real close guy friends, and like we're all kind of like-minded when it comes to that, is we all come from different walks of life, but it was never like the pretty and rosy type of situations for a lot of us. So our goal is to give our kids something we didn't have. Like when my parents passed away, I'm probably going to be left with bills. I'm not going to have any inheritance or anything like that, right? So
y'all need some life insurance. Y'all better call me.
Yeah, no, seriously. So like part of bettering your credit, bettering your life is doing things in a different manner to change the trajectory of your family. So
it's crazy, and this is like off subject, but on subject, is that I was literally thinking this while we were on our break by and said, it's like people want a different outcome, but they want to do the same things. And it just like that's not mathing. Like it does life does not work like that. In order to get different, you have to be willing to do different. And you have to be willing to, you just have to be willing to do different. I feel like that's one of the biggest flaws that we have, is just in humanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
and it's true that you become the 5 people that you're around most. So whereas when you're young, you may not can change the environment that you're in or the people that you're around. Obviously, you can't change the family that you have. But as you get older, you do have the ability to do things in a different manner. Like just because it's the way it's always been done doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it that way.
Keep doing it that way.
You have to make the conscious choice to say, I want better, I want to do better. Now, if there's people around you, because people can't hold you back, and it may not be that they're meaning to, but it's just like, how it is when you do something good, there's always these negative people that, like, I'm sure you have it, they don't never post on your Facebook until you post something that they don't agree with.
Oh my gosh, and you know what, those people get blocked in my world.
And I'm a late bloomer when it comes to that, because I was trying to change their minds, and I realized that's a losing battle.
Yeah.
And so
they're
like
now a little foot fungus. You just block them.
Yeah. So you have to keep in mind that everybody doesn't start at the same place.
True.
So when you think of generational wealth and you think of money that's being able to be handed down from family to family to family member, a lot of us don't have that. We have to be the ones to start that trend. But it also means we have to get very uncomfortable. And sometimes it's going to require us to do things that's not the popular thing to do. It's not the catchy thing to do. It's not the thing that's all in your face on social media. It's most of the time it's going to be the opposite.
True.
And so you have to be strong enough emotionally and mentally to make these choices. But at the same time, it's like, I've got a friend that's got $1 million home.
Do they need a roommate?
But here's the thing. Like if you looked at him on the surface, you'd be like, man, he ain't got no money. Dude's got money. But the thing is, like, he sacrificed, like he had an old paid for car for like 8 years. Things like that. Like he sacrificed certain areas to be able to afford the home. Now that he's got the home, he bought, new vehicle and things like that. But at the same time, like sometimes what we think is the fast track puts us behind further. And then sometimes we do, if you do it in the right manner, you may buy the house and then get the vehicles and things, to the boats and things that come with it. It may not be the vision that we all see it, because everybody wants to see now the house, the boat, the cars, the women, the men, everything like that. But realistically, that's not. It's like a facade. It's not realistic unless you're.
Y'all, Wes got the Wes. Okay, preach, Wes.
Yeah. And so,
Amen.
like for me personally, I try to teach my clients these things, but I also realize that my approach with how I would approach you is different from this person, because you may be at a different place in your life, but emotionally and mentally, you might be more receptive to certain things than this person. So I have to, with my clients, I don't teach or treat them as one fits all. It's very much customized. So the same way that, like, you may like to email more, this person likes to talk on the phone. I have some clients that I can't get them to do anything as long as they just do the work. I don't care what you do. And it's like, you're not learning though.
Right.
So
Then
I
you're gonna
like
end
the
up back in the
hands-on.
same situation.
Yeah. And so just where I've come in life, like I want to see people do better, because I know for a fact, like, I remember what it's like not to have any money at all. I got 2 kids. I'm raising by myself. I'm broke. Um, I'm overqualified to get certain jobs. I'm like, bro, I just need a job. Y'all won't even give me a job. They're like, but you overqualified. Like, I never knew that was a real thing until like 2014, 2015. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm just trying to get a job to support my kids.
Right.
And so, like, I've been through, like I tell my clients, I've been through everything that you've been through, probably more at times. And if not, I can still relate to what you've been through or what you may be going through. So, like I tell people, don't get stuck on the social media hype. Don't get stuck on the people that look super successful, because they probably wasn't always that way. And I've not met one person in my career or my life that's had perfect credit their whole entire life. You can't account for health issues. You can't account for sudden changes with income and job loss. We've all had things happen to us. We've all been irresponsible. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've always been what I am now, like as far as my knowledge and credit. Like, no, I was the same as everybody else. I didn't understand the value of it. I made good money at times and didn't care about credit. And then when I tried to advance for myself, I learned real quick, like, no matter how much money you make, if you don't have credit, you still can't do things. With the way jobs are going, advancement with employment, like they're checking credit nowadays, like, it's going to be more in your face than what it is now 5, 10 years from now, because everything like, think about it, that's a report card. It may not be a direct relation to your personality and your morals, but that's what they're trying to say it is, because it's like, okay, if I qualify and I have like a 400 credit score and they can say I don't pay none of my bills, and you pay all your bills and I'm more qualified, you may get the job or the promotion, because they're going to say that you're less likely to steal and do all these other things, because that's just how they view it. So if I have high debt and low credit scores and I don't pay my bills, then on employment purposes, they're going to think that I'm more a liability to the company than somebody who maybe is not as qualified in every area, but they have a very good work history. They have a very good credit history. And so it's not always appropriate and it's not always true, because you can still have a bad credit score and be a well ethical person and things like that. But you have to understand that's the report card that they're trying to use as on adults now. And so it's important to teach our kids these things, so when they start getting jobs, they understand this. If you start off early, it's easier to maintain. So now that we have social media, now that we have more education tools and things that is in our hands, it's our responsibility to give that back to the kids. And I truly believe that, because that's how you change poverty. That's how you change. Because, like, if you look at all the control of money, the top 2%, they don't want everybody to know this knowledge, because it impacts their financial situations. The banks, the insurance companies, all these people have all the power. But when we start learning how to play their game, like, they want us to pay late fees on credit cards. They want us to pay high interest rates. Right. So when the masses start changing and doing these things different, that's where
then
we
we
get
can
the
get $1
control.
million house.
That's where we get the control.
Period.
Yeah.
Y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. BJ, play my last song. I'm gonna walk Mr. Holland out. We're gonna have to get you back on the show, Miss.
Oh yeah, I love
For sure. Thank you. Oh, I picked up this song too. I think I did. Really, he really does everything. I just work for him.
I see. See, you take his hard work